Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. Never have to cut you out like right now. You see, I don't have to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try to marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they feelings changed. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip.
Welcome to the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast powered by Blue Wire. Shout out to the new company. My name is Michael-Shawn You guys can follow me on whatever Elon Musk is calling that app these days. My @ name has not changed. It's still at Mike Dugar. That is MikeDugar. Shout out to everyone listening or watching via our YouTube channel. Seahawks Man-to-Man is the name of the channel. That's Seahawks Man, the number 2 man. Thank you for the love and support on there. For my audio people, just shoot over there to YouTube real fast, hit subscribe, hit like, and then just shoot right back. You know, don't even need to really dive into the YouTube, but that little gesture right there that takes 5 seconds means a lot to us. Thank you in advance for that. Chris, go ahead and talk to him.
What is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Christopher Kidd. You can follow me on Twitter at CKid206, and that's CKIDD206. And to echo some of Mike's comments, yes, subscribe on YouTube. On our way to 4,000. We are, I think, just under 400 away. So we are closing in on that before the season starts. So all the subreddit users, we appreciate the love. I see our names getting brought up in there. So keep sending love around in that regard. And hopefully we can get to 4,000 before the season starts. Again, just if you're an audio listener, just go ahead and subscribe on YouTube. It's real simple. It's going to take you about 30 seconds. Hop on that YouTube and just Seahawks Man-to-Man. Subscribe. You're all set. But nonetheless, Mike, preseason week 2 in the books. Well, I guess there's 2 more games on Sunday night, but for the Seahawks, that is, their second preseason game is under wraps. And you had the privilege of being out there for you, at least, your first joint practice with the Seahawks. Because Pete Carroll, that is something he did not do. So Mike Macdonald coming in, changing things and getting right to it, saying, you know what, guys, our second preseason game, we're going to go practice with the Tennessee Titans. And from the social media clips, from reading stories, articles, etc., it seemed like a good old time out there, Mike. It seemed as if the Seahawks got better in the stance of going up against a different team and just seeing that feel, unfortunately. Well, I guess not unfortunately. There was no fighting, which was a plus, right? I don't know if you saw Gerard Mayo's comments prior to his players playing in their joint practice, where he said, hey, if you're a starter and you fight, you will play the entire preseason game. And if you are let's say, looking at a player that's trying to earn his position on the 53-man roster and you fight during the joint practice, you will not play a down. So I thought that was pretty funny. So Mike, joint practice with the Tennessee Titans, man, give us some stories, give us how hot it was. 'Cause I know we had you on the radio. You were out there sweating a lot. So I can only imagine how bad the weather must have been or how hot it was.
Yeah, super hot. Gerard Mayo of the Patriots, new head coaches, who made that remark about the starters. Idiotic thing to do. I don't know if he did that actually in application. If he did, Gerard Mayo is not going to be the Patriots head coach for very long, because that is ridiculous.
Did you hear Mike Macdonald might have done the same thing, though? Did you hear that?
Devin Witherspoon did say that Mike Macdonald made the same threat to his players. And then Mike Macdonald immediately was like, I have no idea what Spoon's talking about. I never said that. So I don't. And I talked to Mike about that later. He was like, I have no idea where Spoon got that. Like, I just don't. I never said that, because he's thinking like I'm thinking. Like, imagine DK gets in a fight, which obviously you don't want, but you're really going to put DK Metcalf out there against dudes on the Titans roster that you have to look up. Now imagine he gets hurt. Now you're fired. Like, that's just all because your principles remain intact. That's dumb. Hopefully Gerard Mayo was just like trying to scare his guys. It wouldn't actually do that, because that's just completely ludicrous. So yeah, I don't think Mike Macdonald. Actually, I know Mike Macdonald did not mean that. I think the Titans coach might have said something similar, but I also think that may have been just an empty threat, because you just can't afford to do that. Yeah. So anyway, I was out there logistically for Titans practice and not the game. I know some people gave me some suggestions on places to go Saturday night. I want to be like, yo, I am not there anymore. Once Mike McDonald was like, yeah, no starters. I said, all right. First thing on Delta out of Nashville Saturday morning. But that was fun. You're right. First joint practices. I understand why Pete Carroll is opposed to them. They can get very dangerous, as we've seen with some other teams. I think like Panthers and the Jets or something just got spicy. I think somebody got hurt pretty bad over there. Lions and was that the Giants got real feisty for a couple days. They're out there
200
fighting.
fans fined for each.
Yeah,
team.
they're costing their teams money, and so I can see why Pete Carroll was like, "Nah, I'm good." Also, I was talking. I mean, I don't remember who I was talking to, but I'm sure you guys can all acknowledge Pete Carroll could not have taken those early Seahawks teams to another team's facility for joint practice. That would have been a complete and utter disaster. They would have got no work in. Brandon Browner would have probably thrown someone in a lake. Sherm definitely would have been fighting. Doug might have killed somebody. Mike B would have body slammed somebody. That means Cliff has to come fight somebody. And then if it's when they sign Percy Harvin, Percy's fighting everybody, who knows what Earl would have done at the time. Marshawn probably just going to get under some people's skin. Some of the linemen at that time, like the Giacomini's, Ungers, like they were scrappy dudes too. That's before you even get to a Red Bryant, like it was just not, that would have not been productive, and then they draft Bruce Irvin. There's no way he doesn't swing on somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like that was just it. That would have been terrible. And so for them to not do joint practice, because they were fighting each other and getting in trouble and losing draft picks and practices. So imagine you go take them to, to Minnesota or whatever. And then they won a lot of games and what they were doing worked. So I can see why Pete was like, what I need to change it for. So anyway, I don't know if that's Pete's reasoning, but I'm sure we can all agree that would have just, BB would have definitely body slammed somebody like the first day of the first one-on-one rep on the joint practice. Then it just would have spiraled from there. So I was out there. It was my second time in Nashville, but I came last year for like the day before Christmas Eve, so the 23rd, and I went out to Broadway. That was cool. It was like Christmas, so a little slower. And then I was out there a lot longer this time. Hot as hell. Also, Chris, I learned out there, we'll get to joint practices in a second, but I know some people really love Nashville. Like you tell them you're in Nashville, everyone's just like, here, you go to this place, go to this place, go to that place. I'm like, I just didn't realize everyone loved Nashville and had all their favorite spots and everything. And there was like all the signature food I'm supposed to either not try or try. Apparently there's some really local like beef between Hattie B's, the hot chicken joint, and then the other one is like Prince's, I believe, which is the like, everybody's like, yo, man, don't go to Hattie B's, go to Prince's. Hattie B's is tourist food. In my head, I'm like, I'm from Seattle. I am a tourist. So I am going to try the tourist food. I tried to get to Prince's, didn't get there. I did get to Martin's Barbecue, which is the same spot. I wasn't there the same day, but it's the same spot that Byron Murphy and all those guys were rapping, Ryan Grubb and everybody. Ryan Grubb rapped. I don't know if it was clear because he is a rookie. He's just a rookie coach. So it was like their rookie talent show. That's why you've seen Hayden Hatton up there and Byron Murphy, just all the rookies, obviously. And then all the first year coaches who hadn't been in the NFL, they had to get up there and do something too. And that's why Ryan Grubb was out there. But Martin's Barbecue,
real quick,
fire.
do you know if Aiden Durde went up there and did like an American accent from a movie or something?
Well, Aiden's not a rookie coach. He's just the first year Seahawks coach.
That's a great point. I screwed up that, Mike.
But yeah, like, right. No, it's fine because Mike McDonald was saying that he at first thought like, oh, their first year guys got to go up there, and he's like, wait, no, that's not me, right? Because he is new to the Seahawks, but he's been in the league for like 10 years.
Yeah,
and Mike McDonald has. So AD Durde, same way. It's like he's the first time Seahawks coach, but he's been in the NFL, whereas Grubb's never coached in the NFL. I think some of the other position coaches have not. The O-line coach has not, I believe. So they were part of the rookie talent show, which was cool. I had never seen that from the rookie talent show. They do that every year, but I just never seen the coaches be involved. Maybe they have been and nobody posted it, but yeah. So that was cool. I went to that spot though, Martin's Barbecue. Compliments to the chef. Oh my God. Might be some of the best food I've ever had. No lie.
Wow.
I've eaten all over the world, legit world, and that was Oh man, the chicken wings, the catfish sandwich I had, best catfish I had. Oh man, the mac and cheese was fire. Not the best mac and cheese ever, but that was really good. And it just worked well with, sometimes the food at one spot just go well with the other food there.
Complimented, baby.
Yeah, like you ever try to take a sauce from a restaurant and eat it with something else that's not from that restaurant, and it just is like disgusting. But it's like with this particular meal, it's fire. It was the mac and cheese was kind of like that. It worked perfect with Martin's barbecue. Very, very fire. So I also learned in Tennessee that they have the worst Uber drivers ever. Like it was just real. For some reason, I just pissed this dude off. Chris, I'm not gonna go through a whole text exchange, but I almost thought about tweeting it, but it got I started getting mad back at the dude, so I didn't.
Oh, so there are some things Mike is like, yeah, I can't post that.
So the dude, I'm waiting for my Uber to leave the Titans facility. I don't use Uber. On the road, I use Lyft, but I use Uber because the Seahawks hooked us up with they gave us 2 free rides a day, basically, so you can get to the hotel and to the facility since they didn't have a shuttle. So I was using my account, but it's like Seahawks, they picked up the tab, which is great. So I'm using Uber, and I get a ride, and dude hits me out of nowhere. He's like, "My God, how bad of a customer are you to have a 4.25 rating? Out of 9 years doing this, I think that's the worst rating I've seen." I said, "All right, bro." And it's I don't want to stereotype dude too much, but his picture looks like them dudes who respond to like Colin Kaepernick posts, with like the sunglasses and stuff. Like he got one of them type of selfies, clearly a car selfie. You guys know what that looks like. I said, "You can cancel the ride, man. I don't feel comfortable riding with someone speaking to me that way." He said, "Your piss poor rating can cancel the ride. I'm not picking up someone with that bad of a rating anyway. Uber should deactivate your account. What'd you do to have a rating that bad?" I said, "Look, man, I'm good. I'm just not. Now I don't feel good. So I didn't call my wife about it. I don't check the screenshots, report them to Uber, and he keep going though. So I'm not a temperamental person. Chris knows that. I'm not like screaming on people, fighting people. But I also just don't like being talked to a certain way. Especially, I'm just like, dude, what did I do to you? Yeah, okay, the rating's bad. I don't even know why. I don't use Uber.
That's not a 5 though, Mike.
Well, I think I was I had a bunch of cancellations in the Dominican Republic in February because my bank froze my account because I didn't do the little travel notification that said I'm going to be in Punta Cana. So they thought, oh shoot, it's fraud. Somebody's running up Ubers, and it's like, no, that's me. So maybe that's why the rating was so bad. But eventually I called dude ugly, and we went back and forth, and I was just like, dude, why are you talking to me so crazy? Like, do you realize your name and your license plate is on this thing? Like, I can find you if I want to. He was like, and I don't have a picture on my Uber, so it's like you would never see me coming. So then he gets like, oh, now you're threatening me. I'm just like, nah, you just talking to people crazy, and that has consequences. And then we go back and forth. I was like, your karma's was coming, buddy. That's not gonna come from me, but yeah. And we went back and forth for like 10, 12 messages, but all because he jumped out the window. It was like, oh, you got this bad rating. Oh my God. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I don't want to get in the car with you. And then after like 30 minutes of messages, he was like, all right, man, I'm coming to pick you up. I said, no, you're not. There's no way on God's green earth, bro. You coming to pick me up. So I reported it to Uber. Yeah, it was just crazy. Yeah, he was like, what a baby. I'm going to come get you because I suck as a person. Someone told me that, and now my feelings are hurt. And I was just like, no, you're not coming to come get me. I said, you be safe, Brian. And then I canceled the ride, sent it to Uber. It was like, nah. So that was bad. It was bad. That was probably the worst Uber. And I didn't get in the car, obviously, because there's no way. If this was back home, I might have had dude pull up anyway and like see if he had that same energy in person. But yeah, crazy Uber dude. Like, why are you talking to me like that for? Who cares about the rating? You coming to get the ride or not, bro? If you're not, don't talk to me crazy.
Is there not a block feature on the app where you can just block from the person from responding to you?
Well, I probably should have just canceled the ride right away. But it was just I thought I was getting pranked for him to just be like, just talking to me that off rip, nothing, no messages exchanged, nothing, just, oh my God, I've never seen this. 9 years of doing this. And I was just like, whoa.
Well, pay attention to TikTok. You might end up on there.
That was bad.
Well, I'm sorry. Otherwise, that does suck.
Yeah, right. And it was hot as hell. So I'm just standing there like, damn, man. Like, now I gotta call another ride. And I was like, I don't even want to use Uber no more. I think I use Lyft the rest of the trip, or rode with the homies or whatever.
See if the Seahawks can reimburse you.
Well, it was going to them anyway. They was getting billed. It was set up so it was billed straight to them. I forget
But
how
what
they set
about
that up.
do they have it with Lyft though as well? Because I know you said it was Uber that they took care of it, so it's Lyft.
Well, the New York Times pays for all the lifts anyway. I was just using the
Oh.
Seahawks account just to be nice, and it's just one more thing I had to, I got to do all my expenses at the end. That just saves me one expense, and I had a lot of them because I was out there longer than usual, because I was out there for 4 or 5 days or whatever. Anyway, that was like my only bad experience. Otherwise, Nashville was really fun. The live music everywhere on Broadway is super dope. I'm super jealous. I wish we had that in Seattle. Like every spot is packed. Every spot is live music. All these rooftop bars, super cool. I even on the one of those nights, I think Wednesday or Thursday night, I went to an R&B night with the homie Ben Arthur and Tehran, the ESPN NFL Nation guy. That was super cool. Black spot. I knew it was a black spot, obviously because they were having R&B night, but also because they didn't even have beer. And I was like, this might be the blackest spot I ever been to. They ain't got any. I asked the server, I was like, what beers you got? She's like, baby, I might have a Michelob Ultra. I said, what? This is a full bar with no beer? She was like, I'll go check for you. She came back, she said, yeah, baby, I ain't got no beer. I was like, well, Hennessy it is. But I was like, that means this spot is black. Also, the spot across the street was called Willie B's, which might be the other blackest thing. There's a spot across the street called Willie B's, and the spot I'm in, I don't remember the name, had no beer. I was like, that might be the first time I've ever been in the spot that's regulated by the government that doesn't have beer. That was hilarious. But I'm a big R&B guy, so that was a great time. All in all, Nashville, very cool city, very fun. I can see why people who move there don't move back. Very, 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 very dope. Chris, we should go to Nashville for something. We would have a good time.
We could just go visit Ben.
Yeah, if we just go visit the homie Ben Arthur, yeah, that would be cool. I'll be down to go visit him. We can get straight flights there. It's a pretty relatively expensive city, so food's good, nightlife is good, a little bit of everything. If we're into country music and rock, there's a spot for that. But if we're into rap and R&B, there's spots for that. Everything's pretty close. It's like Midtown, Broadway. Even the spot we went to, the R&B spot, was only like 10 minutes off of Broadway. So yeah, it's on my list of cities now that I'm cool. If someone's like, Mike, you trying to go to such and such, I'll go. Whereas if you ask me to go to like Mobile, Alabama again for the Senior Bowl, the answer is a definitive hell no.
So considering you said there's country music out there, there is 0% chance that the brethren that covers the Oakland Raiders, not the Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders, Tashawn Reed would not join us because he doesn't like country music. He would probably stay or just go to a different bar in this scenario. You think that would...
Probably. I know he's been to Nashville, I believe. I don't know what he did when he was out there. But yeah, I'm not a big country music guy anyway, but I also am like...
Mike, you will go. You won't be like, nah, I'm not going.
Correct. Now, how long I stay is TBD. However, I will definitely go. Also, because sometimes I just want to experience that. If that's the thing there, like if that's the culture, then yes. What I hate is going to like Vegas and then I'm in a club and they're playing like EDM. That's not culture. That's just stupid, But if I'm in Nashville and they're playing country music live, that's part of being in Nashville, So I can get down with it. Just like in Atlanta, it's a rap concert. That's part of the culture, Same thing. If you listen to certain music in DC or New York or Miami, so it was a good time. We should, if Ben says we visit him or something like that, we slide out there. I'm definitely down to do that.
Sounds like a blast to me. But what was we know about, I guess, off the field, from your terrible Uber to the great food to going to was it a bar or a club that you were at where they had no beer?
It was like, I want to say like a lounge, they had couches and hookah and everything. The DJ had the MC had on real tight black leather pants, like old school R&B act from like Joey, dressed like Jodeci kind of. It was good. I don't know what their official thing is, but it was fun. That was a good time. The off field was very good.
All right, well, give us some on field, because I was reading, I saw clips. It sounded like a blast out there. Obviously, Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs going up against their former teammates from the Seahawks, and that was very competitive. And it was all, I saw the video of Devin Witherspoon after an interception him and Jamal have been jawing pretty much the entire practice on day 2, if I'm not mistaken. And Spoon gets an interception. And what does he do? Runs down the sideline looking for Jamal, and it looked really fun and funny. There wasn't any malicious intent there. It looked as if former teammates just having a ball out there competing. Jamal gave him a little shove, laughing. Mike, take us behind the scenes on the atmosphere of practice. I know the first day might have got a little chippy, but overall, your thoughts on the joint practice and anything that stood out?
Yeah, the first thing is just it's fascinating to know the players, but also be embedded in like how the fans feel about certain players and things, because the gap between how Seahawks fans feel about like Jamal Adams versus how Seahawks players and coaches feel about Jamal Adams is as wide as the Grand Canyon. Like the players love this guy, Jamal. I mean, like they love him. They check on him in the offseason. He check on them. I don't know if they all hang out when they're in the same space. I would imagine so. I don't know where everyone lives in the offseason, but there is legit adoration for Jamal and on the coaching staff. Even Mike McDonald appreciates his game. I don't know how well they know each other, but yeah, guys love him. To see all of the dudes embracing Jamal after practice, even with all the trash talking, because Jamal wouldn't shut up the whole practice, both practices. You can hear him. I wasn't even watching the Titans defense the second day, and I could still hear Jamal. He's just nuts, going nuts. Quandre a little bit, but Jamal all day, both days. Crazy. But it was all love. It really was just legitimately like love, seeing him embrace Jay Reed and Daryl Taylor and D Hall, a guy he only played with, I think, for a year, just all these dudes, obviously a Tyler, Geno, DK. It was just a big, like Jamal and Quandre were one of the last 2 dudes off the field on Thursday, which was the second practice, because they had spent so much time chopping it up with old coaches, old teammates, taking pictures. Quandre's wife and his kids were there. So, they're chopping it up, doing a family thing, with all the old teammates. Like, it was legit. It's weird how much the Seahawks fans hate the guy, but the players are like, that's our man, That's it. Because they're impacted by his injuries and stuff and everything more than the fans are, and they still not even upset, So that was interesting. Outside of the Jamal stuff, Chris, it's a shame, that the Titans are banged up where they're banged up, because I really would like to see the Seahawks offense against like a legit opponent, or at least an opponent that's better than what the Seahawks have in their own secondary, which the more I'm looking is like a little harder to find. Now, if Cleveland plays its starters in this final preseason game, that's going to be a war, because Cleveland has really good corners. But the Titans are missing Awuzie. I forget what's wrong with him. L'Jarius Sneed didn't practice. So there's your top 2 corners right there. So after that, it got real thin. Like, I was watching one-on-ones, and, I already don't know the Titans roster. So I'm like writing down who's who. But then I'm like looking up their names later, and I'm like, who the hell is this? And I'm looking, it's like, oh, a drafted rookie from here, second year on 6th round pick from here. I'm like, oh, where's all the good players? That's pretty much what I was thinking. I was like, where's the good corners? Because that's the real test for the Seahawks. For the Seahawks offense is, well, I knew the front would give them a test, which they did. We'll get to that a little bit later. But it was unfortunate that we didn't get to see Sneed in particular, because Sneed is a baller. I'm not a huge like Awuzie guy, but if he's your second corner, he's fine. Like, that's probably about where he should be, is CB2 on any given team. Because Chris, without those two, it was a butt whooping for the Seahawks receivers against the Titans corners. I mean, straight up butt whipping. Like this. And it's not even like they were falling on the ground or like 10 yards of separation, but they just didn't look like they belonged on some of these routes. Like this, one of my favorite ones I want to talk about is Jackson. He put up that Jackson clip. I know our YouTube folks will be able to see it. Jackson Smith and Jigba is cold. And I guess one of the silver linings, I would say, oh yeah, let's keep looping that. That is a great route. Because that gets into something else I want to talk about too. Jackson got a lot of reps in these 2 practices because Tyler Lockett didn't practice. I mean, he would have got a lot of reps anyway, but now he got even more because 16 wasn't out there. And Chris, the chemistry between Geno and Jackson is so strong. Like it's like, if you can see the timing of it, like even in this route in particular here that we're looping, look when Geno throws this ball. He throws the ball before Jackson not only makes the first move, but before he makes the second move too. That's like 2 full steps before Jackson does anything. Like Jackson hasn't even really got into the deception of the route. He's still just running it. And then he's still just 2 steps and then it's free. And then the ball is like right there. And Jackson knew it would be there. And I mean, guys throw in the offseason with each other quite a bit. You know, we see it a lot in the summer. Guys are getting in work. They done hired some photographer to make an Instagram reel. You know how it goes. It's real performative now these days, these young whippersnappers. But it's you can't always tell when it shows up. And it's been showing up all camp with Jackson and Geno. They just don't let us film one-on-ones anymore at Seahawks camp for some reason. But so I can't post as much as I would like to. But I'm glad that the Titans were like, yeah, post what you want. Because that's a really good example. Because it's not just when you're trying to get that chemistry in the offseason, you really got to learn the tempo of each receiver. And we've talked to Tyler Lockett a few times when we had him on the radio in particular. He talked about he's not running 100% the whole time.
You know what's
he's
crazy?
75, 80, whatever. But if you're the quarterback, you have to know that because not everyone does that. Some guys need to get to their top speed because that's their strength, like a DK. Whereas Tyler is more like, all right, I'm about to go 75, but when I burst out the cut, that's 90. So the ball has to be there accordingly. Jackson is not a very fast receiver relative to NFL receivers. I think he's like a 4.4, 4.5 guy, whereas there's some dudes out here running 4.3s and stuff. So Jackson's thing is craftiness, is route running, is deception. But you got to know his tempo. Otherwise, you're going to throw behind him. You're going to overthrow him. So on a throw like that in particular, you need to know the timing of that cut. Like, all right, he's throwing now, and then he'll take 2 steps, break, and all he's got to do is put his hands out, hits him right in the palms. That takes time, and Geno and Jackson have it. I don't feel like they had it very well last year, which makes sense. Jackson broke his wrist, I think. He was a rookie. There was just – and then Geno got hurt. So I think I can see why it wasn't as strong. Now, though, Chris, I think of all the things in the Seahawks, like offense, that was a thing that I left feeling the most confident about. I was like, because I'm kind of a pessimist or just a realist, I guess, in this sense. I know guys are going to get hurt. I just feel like with 17 games and stuff, to think that your whole whatever room makes it through the whole season is just foolish. You're going to lose O-linemen. You're going to lose tight ends. Your quarterback might get hurt, running backs, all that. So what's your depth look like? If such and such is asked to step up, can you still be elite? And I do think, we saw a little bit of last year when DK went down, they were fine. Bobo scored, Jackson scored. If something happens like that again with like a DK or a Tyler, I feel like Geno and JSN would be fine if they had to do it for a game, 2 games a month. You can just feel that chemistry, and that's hard to stop because, Chris, on that route, if you're the DB, even if you had perfect coverage, it's just that level of anticipation. What are you going to do? That route would have beat Darrelle Revis because the timing is too good, So that was really impressive, and that clip is an example of what I saw from the Seahawks offense against the Titans secondary. Like it was just butt whipping after butt whipping for like 2 days.
You also have one, I believe, of perhaps Easop, a guy that actually scored a touchdown, and we'll get to the preseason game and give our thoughts on that game. But didn't Easop get a little busy out there as well in the joint venture, as we have it titled?
Man, so the reason I'm glad we got Easop on the show. If you haven't, go check out our lunchtime interview with Easop, because I'm telling you, and we talked about this in the interview, if I could post clips from Seahawks practice, this clip that we are showing of Easop cooking, I don't know who this corner is. I don't even like looking it up. There's so many examples of this every practice, Seahawks practice. One-on-ones are tailored to the receivers, so you definitely want to win. But the ways that Cody White in particular and Easop, the ways that they are winning in practice is very impressive. They win differently. Like Easop, as you can see here and as you saw in the preseason game, Easop's very crafty, kind of like Jackson in that regard. I don't know what Easop ran coming out of Wazoo, go Cougs, but, he's not like a blazer. He'll run by you, but probably because he creates separation at the line as he does here. But, Chris, we're both receiver DB guys. Corners, you got to get your head around. But for receivers, one thing that really stands out with the hands is when you put them up. Easop is probably the best on the team that I've seen at the late hands, where it's like, even if the DB's there, he don't know when to put his hands up because Easop is so comfortable with his hands, he can keep them by his hips until right into the last second and then just catches it. And you see guys do that in practice all the time, make these one-handers and warm-ups that get tweeted out pregame. Easop does it in real time. And you've seen it. We can't post the the touchdown because it was, the NFL owns that footage from the preseason game, but you see it even here in this particular clip. This is every day at camp. Every day. Good route, good separation. Don't even know when the ball's coming. Boom, hands. So I'm glad that to look ahead a little bit to the preseason game. I'm glad that Cody White and Easop got a little bit of run with Sam Howell because they've been doing stuff like this with PJ Walker. I'm just like, that's just not. It's not productive. Even with Sam in a lot of practices, it hasn't been productive. And I think Easop, I cut that clip short, but I'm pretty sure he started talking trash after because he's been doing that. He's been doing that. Jackson's been doing that. Bobo wins a little bit differently. He's a good route runner too, but he's just so big, that his catch radius is pretty crazy. But yeah, Chris, it was just barbecue chicken, Martin's barbecue chicken for most of the day. And then on the flip side, it was the same way. It was the same way. I actually saw all the clips from Seahawks corners versus Titans receivers, and then I saw them myself in real time. I think Calvin Ridley might be one season away from podcasting professionally because I'm serious. It's a shame that Tyler Boyd and D-Hop were hurt because I would have loved to see Seahawks corners go up against them too. D-Hop in particular probably would have gave them some trouble just because his catch radius is so wide, very similar to Bobo, but like an elite level of it. Man, Calvin Ridley, man, that was rough. Titans fans were about to hate that dude. Because if I didn't realize they gave him $90 million as well. I didn't know that. I mean, I knew that, but I had forgot. So I'm watching these clips, and we got one here. There was a myriad of choices for these clips, by the way, that we could have picked for Calvin really going against Rick Willen. But this is probably my favorite one that we're showing here now in the red zone. To lose this bad as the receiver in the red zone, that is tough. Oh man, that is tough. This don't look like an NFL receiver. That looks like a receiver on a TV show about football. And this was both days. Both days, Reek looked like prime Sherm. I think even Sherm tweeted one of Reek's clips and was like, yeah, that boy is locked in. I mean, and credit to Reek, too. That was probably my other takeaway. Reek had a pick on a back shoulder throw, on the second day of practice. That was really, really good. Seahawks posted that one. We can't share that one because, team-owned footage. But, yeah, Chris, I don't know what Will Levis is going to do back there. I mean,
right?
he won't face a cornerback room as good as the Seahawks one, but I was really underwhelmed by really the whole Titans offense, to be honest. But in particular, the skill guys. So I was like, the tight ends didn't move me. And I like Chig, one of their tight ends, didn't move me. None of the receivers moving me. It was basically just bully ball for a couple days and talking trash to Westbrook Akine. He is their trash talk dude. No, for real. He was like, I wouldn't be surprised that if the Seahawks hate him so much based on the practices that I saw, that's what it looked like, that, he scored in the game. I wouldn't be surprised if the people who gave up the touchdown, I think it was like DJ James and someone else, I wouldn't be surprised if they got fined. I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a little edict in the room, or a little mandate in preseason to be like, hey, if someone lets 15 score, you're getting fined. Or you're carrying, you're ordering food for everybody, you're carrying luggage, whatever. Some type of punishment for letting 15 score. That's how bad it seemed like they hated number 15, which is Westbrook Akine. On the flip side, it was the same thing with the Seahawks and Ty Akata. I'm sure that they were just like, we let the white boy get the interception on us after all that trash he was talking at camp. Yeah, fine. You got to sing or something like that. Come to practice dressed as a chicken. I'm sure the Titans have some type of punitive thing going on because Ty Akata it's not like he was balling out in practice, but he was just irritating the Titans to the point where like Joe Rexroad, our Titans writer for The Athletic, he was like, yeah, man, no, it was just 39. I'm just like, yeah, man, this is like an undrafted dude that don't never play. He was like, man, nah, he's out here being violent. He just body slams somebody. I was like, oh, Ty's like that? Because that was the day I wasn't watching the Seahawks defense. But yeah, otherwise, other than Westbrook Akine, hopefully I'm pronouncing his last name right. Other than him just like arguing with guys, I was really underwhelmed by the Titans offense. The real advantage I saw for the Titans and what gives me to the concern I have, one of two concerns I have coming out of Titans camp is, or the joint practices, Chris, the Titans front looked dangerous. The front line on defense, dangerous. There was a run there. And this didn't include Geno, but I think he got sacked like once. They were doing a drill where the players alternated. The quarterbacks alternated, like 4 reps for Geno, 4 reps for Sam, 4 reps for PJ. I think this was like a third down pressure package period. Geno got a couple balls off for some completions. He was fine. And then of like the 8 reps that PJ and Sam got, I think I had like 5 sacks in those 8 reps. It was like if the quarterbacks were live, like some teams apparently appear to be doing in camp right now, if they were live, Sam probably would have got hurt. I think he got sacked every drop back of that. Or I think the one he didn't get sacked, George Helani got called for a hold on a blitz pickup. Like it was just the ball never even came out Sam's entire direct. I was like, this is bad. And then PJ started off just as bad. It was not good. And then Jeffrey Simmons, who is generally speaking unblockable, he's probably one of the best defensive tackles in the league. Probably goes Chris Jones, Quinnen Williams. Am I missing somebody? Jeffrey Simmons, Aaron Donald's retired. DeForest Buckner, maybe.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, if we're missing somebody, I'm sorry, but those are probably the best 4 guys in some order. He looked generational. Like he posted that clip of him just throwing Laken Tomlinson to the ground in one-on-ones, and we're not going to share that one because that's Titans owned. But it was very emblematic of Chris what it looked like out there, and that's honestly how it looks sometimes in camp too. It feels like we are headed towards another year in which like Geno could be back there running for his life. The run game could be kind of whatever because of the blocking. And it was that was the main disheartening thing because to feel so good about Geno and the receivers only to then be like, damn, but what if Geno gets killed back there? There was a Titans player who was yelling at the Seahawks like, yo, 7's going to get killed behind that O-line. It's like, yikes. Now that's just some trash talk, but it came from a real place, and that was on the negative side of the Seahawks. That was probably one of 2 concerns I had. And then the other one was, Chris, you think you could play inside linebacker? Like how much weight you think I could put on you in like give me like 3 weeks?
You could probably put on 10 pounds. 10 pounds.
10?
So I'll go from 140 to 150. 150.
That get you to 150? Okay, we gotta get you a little higher. We need
You need a life transformation. It's going to take you about 4 months, man. I'm going to have to eat heavy and lift like a crazy madman.
We can do it. Let's start today. Let's start because I just feel very concerned about that spot. It's a tough spot to play. The inside linebackers are involved in everything.
It's the quarterback of the defense, man.
But yes, on top of the communication part and the responsibility, it's you are involved in all the run fits and you're part of the coverage schemes generally as well. And I think the reason why I'm a little harder on that position group, and I feel like Mike McDonald is too, this is one of the things I kind of learned about him. I'm sure you've seen some of the clips or the quotes. He just refuses to compliment Tyrese Knight. Like I asked him how Tyrese Knight played against the Chargers. And he basically was like, yeah, it was fine. And then like asked him something again about someone else asked him actually about Tyrese during practice out there in Tennessee. And he was just like, yeah, we're just throwing a lot at him, giving him more stuff to mess up and then he can grow. I was just like, that's a weird quote. And then after the game again, he gets asked about Tyrese, who I believe led them in tackles, I think. And he was just like, yeah, man, I need him to grow up fast. I need him to be better. Don't get settled with, just making a lot of tackles in the preseason. I'm like, damn, man, what did Tyrese do to Mike McDonald, man? He just refuses to say anything nice about Tyrese, who it doesn't look like is out there screwing a bunch of stuff up, but I feel really concerned about that. And the reason I'm so hard on that position is I've seen Sean McVay. I've seen Kyle Shanahan. I've seen what they do to the Seahawks defense when they had like Bobby and KJ, just putting up numbers on them. Intermediate level, run game, all that, So now imagine the Seahawks got a rookie backer out there, or Jerome Baker who hasn't practiced in a few weeks, or I have to see more of Tyrell Dodson. I'm just kind of concerned there because they're also go back to the injury thing. Chris, they're one injury away from just being completely screwed at inside line. If something happened to Tyrell Dodson, even if something small, like he's out for a couple weeks, like it might get dicey. I was joking with a member of the coaching staff the other day. I was like, dog, if y'all lose a backer, you might have to play like dime full time. And he was like, yeah, we might.
Damn.
But he was like, we could do it. he was like, it's not crazy. We could pull it off, because they got some thumpers at safety that they could bring down, and they could do some 5-man fronts. Their front is really strong. That was perhaps the other good takeaway I had. Seattle's defensive front is strong, but yeah, if they're one injury away at backer from being like, yo, KJ, I know you're coaching the Niners now, but would you like to pull up? Or I think one of their inside linebackers coach, I think his last name was Bynes. I think he used to play for Mike McDonald. Just suit him up real fast, see if he's in. Now, for real, man, it was not encouraging. And I'm not alone in that thinking. The inside linebacker and then O-line are the two positions where I was like, if the Seahawks were to make some claims or something like that at cut down day, those would be the positions I imagine they target. Or maybe they're just hoping Connor Williams is the answer to everything. Maybe having Connor, Christian Haynes replacing Anthony Bradford. I don't know what you do about Laken Tomlinson. Talked to some people at the Jets or who've seen him play in New York a lot more than I did. They're just like, yeah, there's a reason he's not here no more. Fingers crossed, Chris. We have to say a prayer every episode for Geno, and K9. His success is reliant on those big boys up front too, because I did not leave Tennessee from the preseason game or the joint practices feeling like, oh, yeah, this is an average offensive line. Even if you add Connor Williams, I'm not sure if we go from whatever it is currently to average. That's really one of my concerns coming out of Tennessee.
Well, it also sounds as if the Seahawks are going to mimic what the Dallas Cowboys did in the second part of their season, where they said, we ain't got no linebackers. So you know what we're going to do? You going to come down as a safety and play linebacker. I forget who it was. And they just
I think it was like Jaron Curse or something like that.
Yeah.
And something Bell, Marquise Bell or something. Yeah, they were playing dudes who were like 210 in the box.
Didn't have a choice. And you know what happened? Teams ran all over them, but they couldn't throw it as well. That's for sure.
Yeah,
but
I think did they have the best scoring defense? Or no, that might have been the Chiefs. But I feel like they had one of the best defenses in the league.
Somehow they managed, even though they were giving up, I think they gave up 40 points to the Seahawks in that game because they had no linebackers, and the Seahawks were just gashing them any way they could. Also, Geno threw an interception, a pick six. It was an interception to Ty Lockett. Yeah. But nonetheless, the Seahawks, if to your point, Mike, if they do lose someone to injury, which, man, with this game and the violence that happens throughout the season, the Seahawks will definitely have to make some moves and try to figure that out. And to your point about Mike McDonald and Tyrese Knight, I think he notices that teams are going to attack him for just, he can just make tackles or this, and that. But they need him to be better because of those coordinators, those head coaches that will attack and feast on your weak links. That's something that they pride themselves on, attacking your weaknesses and doing it the whole game. And if you can't figure it out, okay, that's unfortunate. We're going to continue to do these concepts multiple times, and we're going to beat you. I think it was 2 seasons ago against the Niners in the playoffs. And Mike, we did our standout plays of the week. And then after that playoff game, you went back and you showed the same concept over and over again, where they run a deep, where the receivers for the San Francisco 49ers, they'll have one guy run a deep over the middle inside, and the linebackers just never got enough depth. Never did. And every time Brock Purdy would sit, throw a dot right over the middle for a completion. And all they did was dress it up a little differently, maybe send the guy in motion. But at the end of the day, they were running the same concept from their 3 wide receiver set, where they send a receiver deep over the middle, and the Seahawks had no answer for it. And in that scenario, they're playing cover 3, and the linebacker just didn't get enough depth. He couldn't get enough depth. He didn't get enough depth, and the 49ers, they abused it. And you can do that. You can go back and look at a bunch of games where the Seahawks didn't figure something out and a team attacked it. And Mike McDonald's probably thinking that way and saying, Tyrese, I need you to be able to read things better, be able to be efficient on that. The one play that stood out to me where I think it was Patrick O'Connell late in the game, or might have been the second quarter. I don't remember, but he got a lot of depth on a pass, and he made the ball be overthrown from the quarterback to, I believe it was his tight end or receiver, and it was tipped. and that's where Ty Okada got the interception. It was because the linebacker did get enough depth, made it an uncomfortable throw for Willis, and the ball was just a little too high. The receiver couldn't get to it. And those are things that I talked about it last week in the cover 2 scheme. The Seahawks did get a turnover. Kobe Bryant was able to make the interception, but the linebacker, I think it was John Radigan, he didn't drop deep enough. And the window was there. The quarterback made a really dangerous throw. Hayden Hurst tried to complete it, got destroyed by, I believe it doesn't matter who he got hit by, but nonetheless,
Kavon Wallace.
That's who it was. Kavon Wallace was able to hit him low, the ball's tipped, and he makes a play. If Radigan's dropping deep enough, John Radigan gets the pick. And that's not to discredit him, but those are just little nuances within the game where teams will attack you saying, hey, I watched on film. He doesn't get enough depth. If we can get that en route, maybe 15 yards, get good protection, we should be able to complete that for a big gain and maybe also send a route here, distracting the safety, send someone up the seam, et cetera, et cetera. So those are just the little things in the game that I think Mike McDonald is thinking of right now because he sees that Tyrese Knight is probably going to be starting week 1 if Baker's not ready. That might be the case. Or if Terrell Dotson hasn't shown enough to be the starter, right? So
I don't think he's going to bench Tyrell. I think it would just be Jerome being hurt. Yeah.
So, but even then, to your point, if something happens, Knight has to be ready to go. And from right now, Mike is definitely showing tough love, but I think I understand and get where it's coming from because he knows there might be a possibility that he is playing more than expected, but he has to be ready to go. He can't have mental lapses. He can't just be a great guy he can't just be the player that makes tackles. That's cool and all, but we need you to get this coverage things down. We need you to know where to be on this certain blitz and how to fill gaps. All of these intangibles that go into this defense and in this game for the Seahawks, I think Mike is seeing, and it's important. So while it might be tough love, I know there's a reason for it, and Mr. Knight has to answer the call and get it done. That way he can, when there's a question asked, for example, about Byron Murphy, Mike McDonald jokes and says, I don't know what you're talking about in regards to him playing so well. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to. He's playing okay, knowing that Byron is doing his thing out there and is showing up on tape and he's getting it done. Now he just needs to get familiar with scheme and seeing things before it happened. I know Cliff Averill, he talked about it on the pregame show. That's one thing he wants to see Byron improve on, knowing things before it happens, seeing, oh, this is what they're going to do. And that comes from film study and just knowing where you need to be. So that's going to be where I believe Tyrese Knight needs to get is knowing what's going to happen. Yeah, it's great you can make tackles, but to Mike McDonald's point, come on, man. Be more than just a tackler. It's tough love, but I think Mike believes in him that he could be a cornerstone in this defense, so he's going to treat him like that. And that's a good sign, I think, as well.
It is, but it's also like a little concerning because you don't want to have to do what the Cowboys were doing last year.
No,
and you can do it, but here's the other thing about that. If they were I think Tyrese Knight is fine for what it's worth. But if they did get to a point where they were like, yep, let's go dime, let's do it, that would be it's a preventable issue. Like inside linebacker was something we all talked about in the offseason and everything too. It wasn't like this just snuck up, so that way, if they did get to that point where it's like, oh man, we got to do something about inside backer. Well, it's like, well, yeah, we were talking about this in like March, even if you weren't going to re-sign Bobby per se, you could have just allocated, I feel like, a little bit more resources to it. But clearly they had a budget and all that stuff. We don't got to revisit that. But I kind of felt the same way about the O-line, I think, 2 of the guys that they signed on the offensive line this offseason are already on different teams. They signed that Tremaine, whatever dude from the Rams. He ain't here no more. Picked up Nick Harrison for agency. He ain't here no more. So, this is another offseason where it's like the coaching staff, I feel like, has to kind of bail out front office a little bit because it's one thing if guys like get on the field like in the regular season and stink, but like that the Tremaine cat, it was like Tremaine H.M. Jr. or something like that. And Nick Harris, it's like, bro, these dudes didn't make it to the regular season. This is the stuff. These are the people you got to protect Geno, and they didn't even make it to week 1. But what? I that's just, and I feel the same way about inside backer. So, particularly since I think these guys both came to Seattle with injuries. I want to say Baker and Dotson did. So the fact that I know that's not the injuries that's like keeping Baker out. I think that was something else. Now he's got a hammy. Either way, the point is you kind of knew we're an injury or two away from being screwed. So I hope it doesn't get to that. I feel generally good, Chris, about the team, and I think preseason the game itself didn't do much. It really was the joint practices, seeing some of the scheme stuff, talking with some of the coaches while I was out there. I feel really good about the team, like getting some inside info on like some of the thought process and seeing how certain guys are coming along and the coaches being able to acknowledge like, hey, we know we got a weakness here, but here's how we're going to address that. And here's how we can put this guy in position, to succeed. And here's how we're going to do this and learning more about Grubb's offense. Grubb's offense, I feel confident about his ability to give Geno the necessary answers. And I feel like Geno is also really smart, is going to find the answers. Because that's the thing with Grubb's offense. It's a lot of, all right, Geno, if they do that, we do that. And if they do that, we do this. We check to this, we check to that. And the same in the passing game, like, all right, receiver, if your guy has this, then you bend it this way. If he does you like that, then you play it that way. And then if he does that, then I'm going to hit you over here. And if they rotate this way, then I'm going to go to the other side of the concept. Like there's all these – I can see why someone like Sam and PJ are struggling with some of that. Geno, on the other hand, I also see why he's excelling in a much greater way because that does require some smarts. And you got to have a gun. Like in terms of an arm, Geno's arm is way stronger than the other two guys. So Geno, I feel like is in really good position to succeed because if you run an offense built that way, kind of like if then this, it is hard to stop you because you always have an answer. The Rams run their offense very similar. Like they tell McVay and Stafford just sit there and go, okay, if they do that, then this is our answer to that question. And Chris, remember when the Rams played the Ravens last year? They put up a 30 ball on those guys in the rain in Baltimore. Puka out here diving and catching the ball with no gloves in the rain. Like they balled out. Why did they ball out? Because Mike McDonald's thing is to force the quarterback to have answers and to have them quickly. Well, Stafford was like, all right, bet. I've been in the league since 2000. Yeah, I can figure out your defense. They didn't win the game, obviously, but that was just because of a punt return in overtime, I want to say. It wasn't like Baltimore shut down the whole offense, Like I said, I think that was the offense that had the most success, I want to say, against Mike McDonald's defense last year was that Rams offense. And it's not a surprise because they have a quarterback who, if you say, hey, can you figure out the answer to this test? And Stafford was like, yes. And I think Geno is kind of the same type of way. So I came away. I already could see that in practice, but I was able to talk to some people and get that explained to me in a little bit more depth with some examples about how they're just attacking leverages and fronts and, basing things off where the nickel is, keying up on the nickel. Like, okay, nickel's here, probably doing this, probably rotating this way. And Geno is just like, I got an answer for it. Here's Jackson. Oh, yep. Here's where I'm going to get the one-on-one to DK because they're showing this. Oh, yep. Blitz is probably coming from here. Like, it's a lot of stuff. And Geno is really good at handling it. So I think he's going to be okay. Chris, I just need him not to get killed. That's it.
Yeah, we could jump to the preseason game because I thought the offensive line was okay. Obviously, the first drive, I think Sam would love to have that throwback. He just misses the receiver. He just overthrows him. I know there was pressure, but I think Sam can make that throw. I know the pressure was there, but the receiver was open. He just missed him. And I think that was just maybe nerves. He knows how important this opportunity is playing in his second preseason game. It's a showcase. Hey, can you go out here and lead these guys? Because you could potentially, in air quotes, for those that are watching on YouTube, you could be the Seahawks' future. You could be the number one quarterback, and this is your opportunity to show that. He did settle down, I thought, for the most part. But obviously, when you get on your second possession, you get number 64. I think that's McClendon Curtis. When he false starts, put you back 5 yards.
That's Christian Haynes.
Or excuse me, rookie Christian Haynes. Because that's right. Bradford actually didn't even start, which was kind of like, oh.
No, he started on the right guard. Christian Haynes started on the left.
Okay, either or. My apologies. So when you have a false start there by your rookie, set you back a few yards, and then Kenny McIntosh gets tripped up standing next to Forsythe as he's pass protecting and trips him. That results in a strip sack fumble. Obviously, the Seahawks recovered, but by then it was third and a long ways to go, and that is just it doesn't problems there, and it sucks for Kenny because I thought outside of that he had a pretty good game. It was just pass protecting. Like, damn, bro, I need you to
But
lock
that's what he
in.
needs to do to make the team, though, is pass
No,
protect. And he didn't even have a block at that point. He just tripped his own guy.
yeah, and that's. Do you laugh about it when you go back and watch the film? Are you yelling at him? I guess there's two ways you could do it. You could yell at him and say, you got to know where you need to be. You can't have this happen. Or you can say, man, it's a tiny mistake. You move on from it. It's not as if someone ran him over and sacked the quarterback and stripped him. It was too close to your left tackle, tripped his feet up. Stone Forsythe goes down.
But
It
he
is
gave
what
up
it
a
is.
sack against the Chargers, too, though. So now it's back-to-back weeks. One way or another,
Yeah.
Kenny has put his quarterback in harm's way.
At least this one,
that's problematic.
Yeah, you're not making a great case there, but he was effective. He was effective on the ground again, and I believe he caught a pass out of the backfield as well. And he's very physical. He catches it or he runs it, and he runs straight ahead. He'll make you miss, but he's not afraid to lower his shoulder. And I've seen Kenny at practice. He's not the biggest dude, but he reminds me of Travis Homer, his style of running. Now, Travis, obviously, when he tried to run folks over, he went flying. It never worked out. I would always wonder, Travis, why don't you try to make guys miss? Because you are always on the receiving end of big hits. You aren't laying the lumber on these defenders. You are getting destroyed every time you do it. Kenny has found a way to lay the lumber and keep moving forward. So kudos to him. And then I believe on that third drive that's when they got their touchdown. And that was a nice little drive. It started
a great drive.
It started with a little bit of pressure off the edge, and I think the throw was maybe for 4 yards to a receiver. But then after that, the next run, or they also had a nice little pass to Chenault, who I thought had a really good game. I think he's a lock to make the roster at this point. When you get him the ball, it's just positive yards. He either makes a guy miss or he runs someone over. And it was a run. It was a jet sweep. He was coming from the right side of the formation, and he came across, handoff, makes a dude miss, gets upfield, and gets gang tackled. So he's a physical runner, and that's what you like to see. And I think it's gonna be fun to see him in certain scenarios where Grubb's like, hey, we need 3 yards here. Well, if you want, you can go to JSN or you can go to Laviscus, who is the big body build, 6'2", weighs a ton, and he's looking for violence every time he touches the ball. And then they blitz Sam. He stays confident, and guess who he finds? A guy that hasn't been talked about too much, AJ Barner, that is. He picks up the first, and then the very next play, he does a really good job by sealing the running lane and allows Kenny to find room up the middle for a first down. And it just kept rolling. I thought AJ definitely, he showcased, I can catch the ball at the backfield. And if you need me to, I can do the dirty work. I showed a clip. I posted it last week of JSN getting in there and blocking the safety and throwing him to the ground. AJ didn't do that, but you know what? He definitely created an area for Kenny to find some light. And I thought that was really good. And then defensively, to switch sides, I'll just Derick Hall. He's flashing.
Derick Hall's locked in, man. He's locked in.
Mike talked about him lifting grown men off their feet. Okay, number 71, he got a little glimpse of that on that sack because D Hall I think it was one hand shiver to the chest. And it reminded me of Mike and I were talking about anime and all these other things to come up with a title for the show. And it reminded me that one arm, that hand to the chest, it just reminded me of a cartoon where I don't know what cartoon it was, but it was just a super punch to the chest, and the fighter just dead. He just got hit so hard. His soul left his body. That's what that play reminded me of, because Derick Hall is so strong, shoved the guy back a few yards, and then is able to make the sack. And Derick he's getting to the quarterback, and he's setting the edge and playing well in the run. Two things that you gotta be able to do. Gotta be able to stop the run, and you gotta be able to get to the quarterback. If you can do those things, he might find himself in the rotation. Unfortunately, Darrell Taylor I didn't really see much from him. I have to go back and watch the film, but from the eye test, D Hall is definitely making the case that he is up and ready for this season, and he's looking forward to when he gets his opportunity to go out there and make plays. So I was really impressed by him in the game against the Titans.
Yeah, D Hall is probably my preseason MVP so far. Been really solid. you need to see the next level of it show up, because he has, we talked about this on the show, he has his superpower is like strength. He's just really, really, really strong. And you can't just bull rush everybody, but you should be bull rushing guys in the preseason. I don't know who number 71 is for the Titans.
He was the third string. Yeah. But
He was listed as like the third string right tackle, I think. Yeah. And he was playing left. So that means he's, some stuff has happened with their depth chart. But that's what you would like to see if you're Seattle. Go beat up on the backups. So that way we have a better feeling about you against the starters. Because if you don't even beat up on their backups, how can we then trust you when we go play the Rams, when we go play the Niners, when we go play the Packers and the Lions and these playoff teams from last season who are going to have good tackles? Most of the playoff teams have decent tackles. At least they have one decent tackle. So, and in those situations, you can't just pick everybody up like a forklift. Perhaps you can, but it's unlikely. These guys are strong. The tackles get paid a lot for a reason. And D Hall in both games has showed up with the power. And I think what's going to be really good potentially is if he shows up with the power in the preseason, when tackles are studying the Seahawks, they're probably going to be like, all right, 58 is going to try to bull rush me. And then they're going to try to adjust accordingly. I don't know enough about O-line play to go into detail about whatever the adjustment is, about how you pass set or whatever. But I do know that if D-Hall can then develop now you're expecting the power, watch this, and that's where having a good backers coach will factor in as well. Like, I think that's going to be, there's some potential there. I still think Mafe and Chenna are going to be leading the pass rush, them and Big Cat, Leonard Williams. But D-Hall is kind of showing a little bit more growth, and just brute strength. I don't think you can live off that, just like I don't think Daryl Taylor can live off just being faster than the tackles. But if I just see you blowing by cats, that does help you set up some other stuff. Like you said, DT hasn't shown a ton in the preseason. He had a quarterback pressure on Saturday, but hasn't gotten to the quarterback much. But we've seen him do it in the regular season, to DT's credit. He's been a 7-sack guy, a 9-sack guy. Like, he has produced. So I will give him that benefit of the doubt. I don't necessarily need him beating up on preseason folks because I've seen him win in the regular season over the course of multiple seasons. But D-Hall is probably my preseason MVP so far. I think Easop has been really good. I just think when you throw him the ball, he makes the play. Mike McDonald said it after the game yesterday. He was like, Sam likes going to him, and he makes the most of his opportunities when he gets them. And that's all you can ask a lot of these guys to do in the preseason. You're going to get opportunities. You're going to get carries. You're going to get snaps on defense. You're going to get pass rush opportunities. You're going to get to blitz. Whatever it is, you're going to get to kick the ball. Well, maybe Ryan Grubb should just start going for it more often. But we went through that last week's show. We don't have to rehash the never kick thing. But I'm getting more correct with each week, folks, on the never kick. But whatever. Also, actually, let me toot my own horn one more time. You see, they only ran like one screen yesterday, maybe, I think. Grubb is seeing the same stuff as me. I'm telling you, that is not good. Stop running screens.
We can move on. We're not going to get into this debate. We're moving on.
Hey, Grubb saw the same stuff I saw. That's all I'm throwing out there. But yeah, offense, Easop, probably one of my preseason MVP so far. Just been making the most of it. Got really good hands, man. The good hand. Yeah, really tough catch against the Chargers in week 1. I think to go to the O-line a little bit, it's not all doom and gloom. I do think Christian Haynes was good. I haven't seen the film, but I rewatched the broadcast copy a couple times this morning before we recorded, and I like what I was seeing from Christian. Christian's a little weird. He's kind of built weird. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to sound like real slave auction-y, but like, he's not like really built, like if I was looking at old lineman, I'd be like, his legs are kind of small, don't got much junk in the trunk. He's probably going to get bull rushed. Like, I'm basically sizing this dude up like on Tinder or something. But that's important for the O-line spot, I feel like. And then I would end up getting him and be like, this might not work out. And then you get him and Christian's like, he anchors up. And I'm like, oh, wow. All right. He got enough jump, to figure it out. It's kind of weird. I watched one day, I just stood and looked at him next to Anthony Bradford, who's built like a tree trunk. Like, he's huge, maybe even too big, but he's big. But as Jeffrey Simmons was showing, that doesn't matter if you do all your right O-line technique and everything. So Christian, he doesn't look like he'd be as stout as he was on Saturday, but he was good. Thought he had a really good game. A couple good sealing some edges. AB did too, Anthony Bradford. But I was really watching Christian because he basically took Bradford's job on Thursday and ran with the ones. So I wanted to see him with the with the ones what look like the ones of the starters that played on Saturday. So I was encouraged by that. I love to see the actual film to see it, but overall, I just really want to see Seattle's front against a real defensive line all at once. Maybe not in the preseason because it's risky, but man, if Geno were to tell me, hey, Mike, Chris, I want to see what you guys want to see, so just give me a series. Let us try to run the ball on Cleveland because Cleveland's got a good front. So if they're like, let us try to run the ball on Cleveland, just give me a series, give me 2 runs on first down, and then let me get a third down in to see if we could block like Myles Garrett or whoever else, and then good or bad, we're off the field. You guys know me and Chris. We're not big on preseason, playing your guys who matter. I would be okay with that because I really do want to see it. Because Chris, if these guys can't block consistently, nothing matters. Nothing. And I just want to see it. I don't want to. We get to Denver, and that's the first experiment. That's fine, but
should blow them out, man. I'm not hearing it. I'm not. You can't give me. I know. You know who I'm sounding like, ladies and gentlemen? Go back and listen to our podcast before the week 1 matchup against the Rams. Probably sound like Mike here. Who do the Broncos have? To Mike's defense, who do the Rams have, Chris? Look at their offensive line. You tell me who's on that line. I didn't know a single person. And you know what happened? Matthew Stafford came in here. Oh, Seahawks are doing this? No problem. Let me drop 30 ball on you guys. Move the ball up and down the field. Oh, and we can run it too? Cool. Not a problem. So I know I'm falling. I am being a person that knows nothing about the Broncos. But I think the Seahawks have a very grand opportunity to dominate both sides of the football. I really do. And I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
No, you're right. They should. You're right that they should for sure. I think the Seahawks are looking across the league. Matt, what's his name? I think it's Mike Clay at ESPN. And I tweeted the link to his thing. He raked every position group across the league, 1 through 32. I think the Seahawks were, I gotta find my tweet. They were like top 5 in running back, top 5 in receiver, top 5 in interior D-line. Like they had some good rankings, and then they were pretty thin at some other spots. They had the worst ranked O-line. Actually, linebacker was like 14th. I didn't tweet that one, but it was like 14th. Yeah. O-line was dead last, but that was weird. The reasoning there was weird. It projected Nick Harris at the starter, and it had some other. It was an outdated anecdote. I mean, to explain the reasoning. So, but I kind of agree with the ranking. It's probably about right. Maybe not dead last, but somewhere back there. They were pretty low, I think, on like edge rushers. But when you then go compare that to the rest of the league, like go look at where some other teams rank. The Seahawks have some. They have a bunch of games where they are just the more talented team. Now, whether that comes to fruition on the wins and losses is whatever. But just on paper, they are going to have games where it's like we're just better. They're gonna have that. I mean, they're gonna have it in the first 2 games of the year, without question. Without question. Whether that means they win is another story. But they're definitely, when they go to that, their roster is much better than Denver's. Their roster is much better than New England. Now that doesn't mean much. You got to go out there and do it, but they are. Oh, it's much better. So I do feel good about the team still. I don't know about playoffs quite yet. I got to really see the O-line, but they're going to have some games. I'm looking at the roster now. I think Seattle's roster is better than, just as like right now as it stands, Denver, New England, the Giants, the Falcons. Was that 4?
Mm-hmm.
The Cardinals, that's 5 games. The Cardinals, again, that's a 6th game. The Vikings, that's a 7th game. And I don't know really what to do with the Bears quite yet. Because I'm really high on the Bears defense. I just don't. I mean, I like Caleb, but I just got to see it. And I think so about 7 out of their. Yeah, I mean, maybe if you feel like they're better than the Packers, I don't think so. But whatever. They're going to have some games where they're just the better team. And if you can win those and then steal one from some of these other teams that may have, on paper, a more talented roster, the Bills, the Packers,
Lions,
Jets, Lions, you could beat the Lions again. That'd be tough 3 times in their place in a row. That's tough. But if you could do that, I feel all right, man. I left Tennessee feeling good generally about the Seahawks, especially when I got to learn more about what they're thinking. Schematically, adjustments, how to hide certain deficiencies, accentuate certain strengths particularly on defense. I was like, okay, I feel a little bit better about this. I'm still worried about inside backer, but I'm not like I came into the training camp being like, this could get nasty. Now I'm like, okay, as long as everyone doesn't tear their ACL in week 2, they should be fine. Depth is a concern certain places, not as much others. So I'm feeling a little bit better. I also think the Titans are going to stink. Chargers too. Like I think the 2 teams they played in the preseason are going to be just straight buns.
Yeah, Chargers might win 4 games. They are terrible.
Buns.
I couldn't believe it. Watching that preseason game, I was like, this team is ass. Top to bottom. Like their best hope is Herbert throwing for 5,000 yards and they protect him. I don't know who he's going to throw to though.
Godspeed.
Yeah. Well, look, before we get out of here, we do have Twitter questions. We got to get to those. Mike asked late last night on Saturday night's amazing thunderstorm. How did baby go through it? Was she okay, Mike?
Yeah. The storm ended up being too bad, but yeah, let's do it.
All right. This first one comes from Sammy C521. Does it hurt the guys on the third string fighting for those bubble spots if they are playing with lower depth at quarterback?
Yeah. I mean, does it hurt Cody White if a ball actually the worst one was probably Hayden Hatton. Does it hurt Hayden Hatton that a back shoulder throw to him goes into row 2A? Yes. Yes, it does. That sucks because he can't catch a ball that far. And I feel bad for those guys, I really wish they could just do like this week of practice. They won't do this, but I really wish they could just flip the 1s and the 3s and the 2s. Like let Cody White, Easop, and Hayden Hatton just get all the reps with Geno. And then let DK have to catch these PJ Walker passes, Not that they're all just terrible. PJ's thrown some good balls. There's some days where I'm like, oh, he looks better than Sam. I haven't had one of those days in a while, but there was a couple early in camp. So it's not like PJ's just stinking up the joint every day. But there are some days where it's like, yeah, man, this is not like Derick's getting nothing accomplished because of where that ball went, Hayden's getting nothing accomplished because of where that ball went. Easop, even Jake, Bobo, a lot of times. So I wish they could flip it. They won't. But what those guys can do and what they've consistently done, which is particularly in the case of Cody and Easop, is when the ball does get in the vicinity, they're generally making it. Cody had like a stretch of like 3 days where like he wasn't catching a cold, but generally he's been fine. Really productive. And you can see it in the preseason game. That throw that Sam threw to Cody, I think it's a seam ball. Best throw Sam's made. Easily best throw Sam has made in camp. Might be that was a laser. Perfectly placed. Cody made it great. Yeah, great. That was probably even better than the gold ball to Easop. So, but yes, to answer the question, it does hurt them. They're getting judged on other stuff though, too. Just making the right adjustments. Remember, I said their offense is a lot of if-thens. So the coaching staff can tell if they do the right then, if that makes sense, if they read the DB right or the coverage or whatever. So it's not always just catching the ball. That's part of it. But, they still got to block as well, always lining up in the right spot, not having to have the quarterback and like help them out. So I think they're getting graded on a lot of stuff that we can't see. But in terms of the stuff we can see, yeah, I'd be feeling bad for the backup receivers, man. Like DK would probably never have to catch a pass from PJ Walker. You know what I'm saying? Like it just don't. A lot of things got to go wrong for that to happen in a real game. So yeah, it does. I don't know how much it hurts them per se, but in terms of making the team, but I'd be feeling bad for them for sure.
Speaking of making the team, this is from 12 for Life Go Hawks. We already talked about a little bit about it regarding Easop Winston potentially making the team on this stacked wide receiver unit. When or are they going to expand the roster? 53 is not enough, especially when you look at maybe an Easop Winston or other teams that have standout receivers that, damn, is there enough room?
Yeah, I think expanding the rosters is probably something that they could visit or revisit when they go to an 18th game. Probably something you could look at. They'd probably just expand the practice squad first. But even if you just expand the game day roster, just let all 53 suit up. I feel like you maybe are looking at more opportunities. Doesn't mean guys necessarily would play, but you have more of a chance to if you're wearing street clothes, right? So I think right now, if they cut down the roster, I feel like Easop would probably make it. I think he probably would. I think you would keep 6 receivers and you keep your big 3 Jake Bobo. I'm with you, Chris, that LaVisca has guaranteed a spot. He's basically everything they wanted D. Eskridge to be. He's just doing it consistently in practice, in the games. He's putting it on tape. You can't argue. Eye in the sky don't lie. And then that sixth spot, you're basically looking at Cody White, Derick Young, D. Eskridge, Easop. And Easop's been productive, man. Objectively speaking, take my poop hat off for a second. You guys watching the games, you seeing the same stuff we seeing. I'm not breaking news to you to say that Easop's making plays. The coach even said it yesterday. So, yeah, I think that's where I'd probably go. That means you just basically cut Derick, which, I mean, I don't think anyone's going – it's not going to be a Case and Williams situation, where everyone's pissed, if Derick don't make it. Derick a good player, though. Derick would definitely be like a productive receiver on some of these other teams. The Patriots could use Derick. The Chargers could use him. Shoot, the Chargers could use everyone on the Seahawks roster at receiver. It's really, really, really crazy, Shoot, I think the Lions could use Derick. They could use like a real wide receiver too, So there's a few teams that could use him. But anyway, those would probably be my 6. And again, a roster expansion is not going to happen for a while. But just right now, I think if they keep 6, you got to keep Easop, man, making plays.
There it is. This is from Jeffrey. Is A.J. Barner tight end 3 and a lock to make the team?
I feel like it gets forgotten or ignored, maybe perhaps, what being a draft pick means to certain general managers when you're projecting the roster. Guys, John Schneider has shown us for quite some time here. He loves his draft picks. You got to be bad for John to just punt on you after your first preseason. We've seen it, but it's been really, really, really rare. And I say that to say, yeah, AJ's probably a lock. He's just not going to want to lose, a draft pick. He's going to want to believe in him, and that's the case whether you're 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round. Like, we've seen him keep a lot of guys. 7th round, you can get dicey. But for the most part, he's even worked to keep those guys too.
John Ursua.
Yeah, Ursua, even David Moore, Chris Carson. Remember, Chris Carson wasn't producing much as he was hurt. I think he had a hamstring thing as a rookie. I think he kept DeMarcus Christmas. Maybe that's probably a name everybody don't even remember. Jamarco Jones. There's been some other guys that were just like, he hasn't kept every 7th round or 6th round pick or whatever, but he likes to try to keep those guys if he can. So right now, I got every rookie making it. And John likes to hold on to these dudes too if they're not producing. Rashad Pennies and Colliers and even D. Eskridge. He'll hold on to a draft pick. He'll cut you maybe during the regular season as a rookie. A Gary Jennings type thing. But I think they all at least make it initially. But I do think it was good for AJ to get the ball in his hands. You're right, Chris. He's been very quiet. People keep asking me about him, and I'm just like, I'm not doing it. It's just not. But that was, he caught a wide open ball in the flat. But good for him. He caught it. Brady Russell just dropped the ball. Right there in front of the DB.
Freaking great route, man. Great route. And then
great concept with the ball fake too, to pump and go. Yeah, it was
beautiful.
I'm hot, bro. I would have made Brady do push-ups on the sideline, dog. That was a terrible drop.
It was bad. Bad drop indeed. So
he had too much dip on his chip from remember he made the defender miss for the touchdown. Brady did. So he was trying to get in his yak bag. Thought he was Tavon Austin after the bro, if you don't just lower your shoulder, he tried to get his wiggle on and just the ball just flew out of bounds, bro. I could hear the little Shaqtin' a Fool noise when he did it. Ball just flew out of bounds. That was hilarious. I forget what I was even saying, how we even got there. Yeah, we just gotta go to the next question. I just forgot, lost my train of thought, but that was hilarious. That made me laugh. Ball
no worries. This next one is from Spaghetti.
Oh, it was AJ Barner question. Sorry. That's how we got to Brady Russell. But yeah, I think AJ's a lock. I think they keep 4 tight ends. Sorry to cut you off. AJ Barner, Pharaoh Brown, if he's healthy. I saw him with on crutches on Thursday, so who knows there. Pharaoh Brown, AJ Barner, Noah, and Brady Russell. I think they all 4 make the team.
I will say, being in crutches is a sign that you are out for a minimum a month. But
we'll see. I don't know for sure. But you're right. Crutches are bad.
This is from @Spaghetti105. How much? Well, actually, I'll phrase it this way. Can Derick Hall be an impact player for the Seahawks this season?
I think he can. I think statistically, he won't get a bunch of numbers. But I do think he can have he can just have high impact with low volume. I think a good example of that would be Kobe Bryant's rookie year. Like Kobe didn't, if you like, he wasn't around like a ton, but he just was impactful. I think he led the league in forced fumbles that year. Maybe I think he had like 4. Um, he did make a lot of plays without, just putting up a lot of raw numbers because he didn't get a lot of ops. Wasn't targeted a ton, wasn't a full-time starter, rotational nickel basically. But I feel like D-Hall could be that, just when he's on the field, he's really efficient. Like he might end up having a really high pressure rate, but only like 3 sacks. But you go look and it's like, wow, D-Hall's only rushed the passer 95 times this season, but he's gotten a pressure for 14%, which would be really high, or even 16%, that's a dumb high number. I think the high last year was 20. I think it was Bryce Huff or Michael Parsons. So I could see D-Hall having a season like that where he's not out there a lot because Geno's really good and Boye is really good, and they have some other ways to use edge guys. They're going to blitz their other players a lot, so that means that the backers it might be a 3rd and 7, and now you got to drop. You don't even get to rush the tackle. You know what I'm saying? You got to drop. So that because now here comes Spoon. Now here comes Tyrell Dodson. You know what I mean? So I think he could have a year like that where it's promising, but there's just not a lot of volume. But you go back, he's like one of those advanced numbers darlings, where like his pass rush win rate is super high because he's got a low amount of rushes, stuff like that. That's the type of season I see D-Hall having. And maybe the type of season where if they run into a team that plays like their backup tackle or something, like the Giants had in the game last year, where he starts the ball out. Remember, everybody had a sack. I almost had a sack against the Giants on Monday Night Football last year. They had like 20 sacks in that game. Everybody got one, bro. Might be the greatest defensive line performance I think I've ever seen. So I think on games like that, you'll probably see D-Hall start to pop.
Last one comes from @Jimmy_Lee1. Are the Seahawks stuck with Jason Meyer this season, considering the dead money they would take on if they cut him?
So credit to J Meyer, he did bounce back. He missed the PAT for the 2nd straight preseason game, which is bad. He did make his field goals, which is good. The funny thing is that he missed the PAT and they lost by 1. So that just magnifies the importance of the PAT when you lose by 1. But I do think if he's going to be missing these PATs,
miss him now.
Grub, I know you can hear me. I know someone on the staff's job is to monitor what the media is saying. Hear me good, brother. Try out those 2-point plays. You're a creative guy. You'll get 50% of your 2-pointers. I know you. You smart. Your quarterback smart. You have DK. You have Tyler. You have Jackson.
Yeah. You have Noah.
In that place, I feel like your O-line is not as bad because you don't need that much time. You're 2 yards away, and Geno can run. So, and you got K9. So come on, man. I like J Mai too. I'm not saying you got to go for it every time. That's dumb. You don't want to get crazy with it. But come on, man. Try him out earlier in the game. Like if you go up 6-0, it's nothing to lose. The whole game is still ahead of you. Just try it out. Start trying out those 2-point plays. You can get it back later. I like that because your field goals, make your field goals. As long as you're making your field goals, it's whatever. But missing the PATs would just frustrate me so much because it's like, bro, we're just 2 yards away if you want to try it. I would start going for it. So, Grub, I know somebody on the staff is going to hear me. Come on. Let them know. I said it. Damn them extra points. Go for 2. Go for 2. I'm with it. I will get shirts printed that say it if y'all need them. Hats or whatever. Go for 2.
Well, I have nothing to add on that note. We want to thank you guys for listening to another episode and watching our YouTube guys as well, ladies and gentlemen, for watching on YouTube as well. Appreciate all the love and support. We will come back later. Man, we are, a few weeks away from the first live NFL game. Seahawks will take on the Broncos at home. Mike McDonald off to the races. Mike, anything you want to add before we get out of here?
Thank you for the love and support. Hope you guys enjoy the show. We'll catch you next week after the Browns game. See you.